Good afternoon, everybody. Today is Tuesday, January 23rd, 2024, and the time is 5:30 p.m. We're here for the regular session of the Coppell City Council. There is a quorum present, so I'm calling the meeting to order. We will be convening in work session in the first floor conference room. The public is invited and encouraged to join us. Thank you very much.
I'm like, what are you showing them? They're making faces.
You know, it's not as
Watch out, watch out.
I expected the chicken.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. The time is 5:31 p.m. We're here for the work session. We've got 5 items on the agenda. Beginning with the discussion of the agenda items, we do have one change, as I think Ashley sent out an email on one of the consent agenda items.
Yeah.
Other than that, pretty light agenda tonight. Any questions, comments?
Excuse me, she's working on it. There you go.
I just have one question about where is it? The traffic lights. Or am I looking at the wrong one? For the battery, yes. I just have a question about B.
Okay. That'd be,
Just wondering if, does that 38 system, does that cover all the
All
lights?
signals.
So we won't have any issue with, and is that what's causing some of them going out of, I guess, sequence?
No, that's not the cause of behind the season. This one's just for power
Just for
supply.
power, okay. So what is causing the out of sequence so often at an intersection?
It could be a emergency services preempting the signals, causing it to recycle, and it could be a pedestrian pushing the button that changes that cycle.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, if the pedestrian, they push it, you have a time limit as to when it's going to be, but when it's not,
Yeah, we can look at, but it could be a number of things that cause it to get off cycle.
okay, and then anyone has that issue, they could always, I guess, update to that.
Correct. I mean, we can look at the data right away and see if there is cause to it.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Don?
On D, that's the one that got modified or got updated. Do we need to do anything when we approve it, or do we have to change the language or anything? Or
no, it's just substitute.
okay, thanks.
Jim?
When we see something like D where there's a contract, I mean, is it just routine that's been reviewed and vetted by city attorney's office?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Uh-huh.
All right, let's move on. Item B is an update regarding the communication strategy and community engagement with Ms. Cook. Hannah?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to present tonight. So it's been about 6 months since we last spoke about our communications philosophy and our strategy for increasing community engagement. So we use the direction and feedback that Council provided to refine our processes and enhance our community engagement efforts. So tonight, I wanted to give you a brief overview of our plan and the community information team, talk about some of our goals, some of the tools that we currently use and that we're exploring, and how we're measuring our progress. So after our conversation in June, Council approved the addition of a second communication specialist in fiscal year 23-24, and that went into effect in October. So I am deeply appreciative of that, so thank you very much. Then, in the late summer, early fall, the Community Information Office went through some transition, with our communication specialist moving over to the Art Center to support the city in a different capacity. So after a few long months, I am pleased to report that as of January 8th, the Community Information Office is fully staffed. So this will go a long way to helping us market the city and engage the community. So before I provide you with an overview of our plans and our strategy, I wanted to quickly introduce you to our team. And unfortunately, none of them could be here tonight, so it's just names and titles. So in order of tenure, first we have Laura Lashen, who is one of our communication specialists. And next we have our newest communication specialist, Samuel Igrison. And finally, our brand new team member, our communication strategist, Maria Dennison. So now that the team is in place and we have more capacity, we're continuing to have conversations around how we can be most successful and how we can have the biggest impact. So each member of the team brings specific skills, new ideas, and a level of expertise to the city, and we are each focused on specific areas, allowing us to create rhythm, strategize, learn, grow, and more effectively reach the community. So now that you know all of the players, let's talk about some of our goals and the things that we're doing. So first, we're working to continue to refine our processes and the tools that we currently have in place to ensure that we have a stable foundation for high-quality, engaging communications. So in particular, I'm working closely with our emergency management division and our vendor, Everbridge, to improve how we communicate with residents and businesses during emergency situations. So Everbridge is the city's mass notification system, and it allows residents to sign up to receive phone calls, text messages, and email alerts with important updates. And this year, I will also be working with Civic Plus, our website vendor, to refresh our website. So this will not be a full redesign process, but an update and a facelift. So the majority of our communication pieces direct residents back to the website. So we want to make sure that it's in a really good place. And our digital newsletter, Coppell e-News, is one of the most effective tools that we currently use. So hopefully all of you subscribe, and if not, please reach out to me and I'd be happy to get you set up. So we have just under 11,000 contacts in our audience, and the last edition had an open rate of 45.6%. So for comparison, the average open rate of for government newsletters is 29%. So Laura Lashen puts e-news together for us each week, and she is consistently looking for tweaks to make to improve the newsletter and make it more reader-friendly and more valuable to residents. So next up, let's talk about social media. Samuel Igerson is our social media guru, and he's been doing a great job of getting entertaining and educational posts out on our social media platforms. On Facebook alone, we have seen our reach increase by nearly 80% over the last 6 months. And over that same period, we've seen content interactions on Facebook increase by almost 50%. So now that we have a little bit more capacity on staff, Sam is putting plans in place to get our messaging in front of a larger audience and get more engagement by using different tools like Reels and Stories, which we have not currently used, and then also exploring how we can more effectively use platforms that we're not already on, such as Threads and WhatsApp. So in addition to the free tools that we use, we also place paid ads to increase our reach. So this year, as part of our contract with Community Impact newspaper, we are placing programmatic ads. So programmatic advertising uses automated technology to buy media. Data and insights are analyzed to serve ads to the right user at the right time, and audience locations are set via a geofence. So Community Impact has partnered with numerous websites such as Forbes, Time, CNN, ESPN, Post, and Yahoo, among many others. So if somebody in Coppell, someone within that geofence, is scrolling through any of these websites, they may very well see one of our ads. And so this strategy helps us get our messaging in front of residents who may not interact with any of the city's other platforms or channels. So in addition to this partnership with Community Impact, we're exploring further partnerships that will allow us to expand our use of programmatic ads. Maria Dennison will use her marketing expertise to help us craft many of our ad campaigns and create more effective messaging. So I also wanted to give you a quick overview of some of our plans to get out into the community and engage with our residents. So the Community Information Office plans to be at the city's major special events, and we'll be providing residents with information about things going on in the city and also encouraging them to sign up for our newsletter and to follow our platforms. Maria is also exploring opportunities for storytelling and working to strategize a plan to highlight community members, creating a kind of Coppell story corps. So by doing this, we aim to get more relevant and interesting content out into the community, helping us to attract residents to our platforms and grow our audience. So finally, let's talk about evaluation. So we consistently use the data available to us on our social media platforms and through our newsletter platform to gauge how our messages are doing and to make adjustments. As I mentioned earlier, the majority of our information that we put out directs residents back to the website, and we're able to track how many people engage with the content. All of our digital ads have a unique link, and our print ads contain unique QR codes, so we're able to track how many views and interactions we get from our ads. Sam has been working to put together what will be a quarterly report detailing social media metrics, ad click rates, impressions, month-over-month comparisons, and more. So we're still refining the format of that report and putting the process in place, and we'll begin to share that report with council in the near future. So that was a pretty broad overview of a pretty in-depth plan, so I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Are the programmatic ads that you mentioned the same thing as the digital ads that have the embedded link?
So they are the same, as of right now, they are the same ad, the same file with the same link. So right now we are not tracking specifically where we're getting clicks from their website versus programmatic ads specifically on our side. However, Community Impact does track that for us, so we do have that data.
Okay, but on the programmatic ads that Community Impact's putting out, I mean, if you click on it, then it does take you to
the city's website.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
So yes, they do direct to the same link.
Very well done, thank you.
On your Facebook content that you're putting out, is all of that, you said, I believe 80% increase in reach on Facebook? Is that all organic? Is there any paid, like boosting or ads or?
That is a good question. I don't believe in the last 6 months we have placed any paid ads, so
Okay.
all of that would be organic.
Okay.
But we do occasionally place Facebook ads and ads on other social media platforms.
Okay.
But I want to say in the last 6 months, we have not done much.
Okay.
So you said you had 11,000 contacts for the e-newsletter. How many contacts are you getting out of Facebook?
Let's see. Right now, we have 9,400 Facebook followers.
Wow. Is there any way to know how many of those are the 11,000 on the e-news?
I don't know that we would have a way to figure that out now.
John?
Couple questions. You mentioned, I guess someone that was hired for the communication strategist, he actually went over to the Art Center instead? Is that a vacant position that was just transferred over, or what happened there?
So it was JJ, who was our communication specialist. He took a position, a promotion at the Art Center to manage marketing and communications at the Art Center.
So it was a vacant position at the Art Center that he
Yes,
fulfilled,
yes.
or it's not additional or anything like that?
Correct.
Okay.
So that was a vacant position that he filled, leaving us with the vacant position.
Okay. The second question I had was, and I don't know how hard this is, but I think I mentioned this before, but like, I know all these media, the venue that you go to is one thing that's coming from the city, but also it's quite different when it actually comes from like some of the council members. Have you thought about putting a newsletter that they are able to, or the council is able to put out that could reach further, the residents' audience in the sense, because if it comes from the city, a lot of times they don't really look at it, but if it comes from individuals, they do actually look at it.
We have not, at this point in time, we have not considered doing something like a newsletter. We have started considering different ways to engage council on social media. So for example, the holiday campaign that we did. So we're starting to look at doing different things to get council out in the community, and then also we can leverage your name and your popularity to help us spread the city message.
Okay, because City of Dallas is that, and they really do reach a lot more residents rather than just a, news that come from the city itself.
Right, it's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Did I hear we have 4 full-time staff or 5 full-time staff in the communication department?
I always have to count this because for some reason the number does not stick in my brain. So we have 3 full-time and 1 part-time.
Okay. We do have a Discover Coppell with the chamber. Do we have any collaboration? We also pay money to them, any collaboration with them?
Correct.
Do we have any collaboration with them?
So no, at this point in time, my team is focusing on communications with residents directly. If council were ever interested in having us collaborate on that, we'd be happy to look into that.
Thank you.
Kevin?
This thing is, so I know the team is newly formed and kind of assembled and just kind of getting that strategy down and stuff. How long, I know you kind of spoke earlier about 6 months, since we kind of last met and stuff. Are 6 month chunks good amount of time for like evaluation of data to kind of see, what kind of results you're getting, certain campaigns, certain efforts and stuff like that? And the reason why I'm asking is like, how will we what's the timeline for kind of understanding the effectiveness for adding the additional staff member that we recently did? What does that do for your team, and what kind of feedback do we get? Like, what does that cycle kind of look like for you, or is it too early to even answer that?
Well, I had an answer until you added the last part,
Of course,
and perhaps not. But I do think 6 months would be a good amount of time to give us a real look at the potential of the team and things that we might be able to do. So with those quarterly reports, that will give us 2 reports that we'll have in place so we can analyze changes over those 6 months and really start to gauge what that looks like. So I do think that will give us a good amount of information to build from, but then if we have more longer term campaigns, maybe we need to look at a little bit more data from that. But I do think that would be informative.
I gotcha. Just a follow-up on that meeting that we had in July. I remember we talked a lot about the push versus pull and stuff like that. Please remind me, we kind of agreed more on like a push strategy. Is that correct? That we were just trying to push more information out to the community? Is that correct?
Heard a little bit, a couple of different things. So heard that there was interest in getting messaging out to larger markets, and so doing more push messaging and targeting different demographics. So yes, that was, and being cognizant and aware of different demographics and displaying a strong effort to reach those markets. So yes, that was the general consensus.
All right, excellent. And so, I'm always, I know several of our council members around the table have had question marks about are our citizens, getting information. And I know, a lot of us kind of come back to, well, the guys who have their heads out of the sand and they're looking for information, they can typically find it. So, I always wonder, like, what other strategies could we implement? And I know some of those may be capital-intensive strategies. I know that we have a pretty healthy banner program where we put up banners around the city to kind of let people know about events and initiatives and things like that. And I wonder if that strategy is the best strategy, like, or do we need to maybe look at embracing more technology and kind of pressing that forward? Because I'll be very honest, the banners get a little junky for me. Just when you're driving around town and kind of tattered up and stuff like that. So I'm just kind of thinking out loud, if you will, just about communication. Should we look at some sort of digital display, billboards and stuff? And I know in the past we've been very cautious about that kind of approach, but are we reaching a point where we need to seriously look at that with the ultra high definition screens that are out there and stuff? I think we could get some really nice boards, and I'm sure your team could put some really nice messaging out there. So I'm just kind of thinking out loud about, is that a potential direction? Obviously not trying to gather consensus from the council or anything, but just kind of thinking out loud as we have this presentation.
Yeah, if that was a direction that council wanted to go, I think we could definitely use digital signage to get information out into the community in new ways. So I would be happy to have those conversations. But as we transition, we are transitioning to more digital and pulling away from print in some senses. But we do still have a large component of our community who, according to the citizen survey, relies heavily on the Waterville newsletter and some of our newspapers and some of our other print media. So we can't, at this point, walk away from that completely.
Absolutely.
But I do think there are ways that we can increase digital communications and help get into audiences that we haven't necessarily connected with yet.
It's like 100 ways to try to get one person right. I mean, we're
Exactly.
always trying to get different messaging out with different. Thank you.
You said that your staff was going to start engaging with city functions. Was that like, would you be out at like Neighbors Helping Neighbors promoting, or give me an idea of what you're talking about?
Yeah, so the last couple of years, or the last many years, we've been out at Celebrate Coppell, but more in a working capacity, taking photos, things like that. So this year, we're hoping to also have a booth out at the event and give away information about the budget process, different things, water conservation, different important things coming up around that time. And also, we're looking for different ways that we can do a fun gimmick or a game or something to draw people to our table and then have them sign up for our channels. So we're working on how we might be able to do that, but the plan was to have booths at our various events.
Okay.
Dunk tank for the freshman council. Just an idea.
You're gonna need a big one. After that, yeah.
Any other questions for Hannah? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anxious with anticipation. Item C is discussion of Intech building, and Kent will be bringing that to us.
Excuse me.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. Be providing a briefing to you tonight on an Intech building facility. As I go through this presentation, it's worthwhile to remember or understand that the facility that houses Intech is not a typical office building. It's a hardened facility. It is fed with multiple utilities, so has redundancy. It has protections. So it's not your normal just kind of office facility that you might typically drive by down the road. So with that background, Intech is a little bit of background. Intech was formed in 2014. It was really being discussed beginning back in 2012. So the articles of incorporation were signed in 2014 and began providing service in April of 2016. So the initial lease in their current space was signed in 2014. It's a 15-year lease and is scheduled to end in 2029. And Intech has currently outgrown their current space. So they have 11,800 square feet, and knowing that their lease is coming up in the next several years, 5 years basically from now, they began doing some work to identify what their long-term space needs would be and what the best solution would be to solve those space needs. So they hired a consultant, they hired Freeze and Nichols to look at their space needs. And again, they were looking at 20 to 30 years out. 20-year horizon really was their look as part of the study. And they identified that they would need 20,000 square feet to continue their operations effectively over the next 20 years. Freeze and Nichols then developed a schematic layout of what that 20,000 square feet would look like and developed cost estimates and timelines. So in parallel, they also, not Freeze and Nichols, but actually City of Carrollton staff negotiated a lease with their current tenant or their current owner of the facility that they're in to determine if leasing would be the best way to move forward. So that was done in parallel. And based on the feedback from the consultant, if the path to build their own facility was followed, they would need to start construction in late 2025 in order to be in position to vacate the existing space in 2029. So they also explored the feasibility of moving to another facility, basically finding a spot that maybe wasn't situated for their needs, but retrofitting it. And that turns out to be more expensive than building a facility from scratch, because you basically have to go in, gut the whole thing, and harden it and provide all the utilities, and that is not a cost-effective solution. So they provided a cost analysis, or did a cost analysis, to look at the leasing option versus constructing and owning their own facility over a 30-year cost, and kind of broke it out into the first 15 years, which would include, acquiring the land, building the facility, and then operating it over 15 years. But then also that second 15 years, what do those annual costs look like out over a longer term period? So if you look at a 30-year cost comparison, to lease would be almost $58 million. And if you were to build your own facility and then own it, operate it, maintain it, that cost over a 30-year is about $33 million. So you see the difference is almost $25 million between the two over that 30-year time frame. So as we do, as you're aware, InTech is a shared venture between the four Metro Crest cities, Carrollton, Addison, Farmers Branch, and Coppell. The cost share is based on the call volume, or call for service volume. Coppell's share is a little over 12% currently. So that the city of Coppell's share of owning would be about $4 million, $3.97 million, and that's that 30-year cost to own. And we would pay that. We have, as you're aware, we have the crime control district. We have reserves set aside, and we would pay our share with cash. So we would not sell bonds, or wouldn't propose to sell bonds. We would pay for that out of the crime control district. So this is the schematic layout that Friesen Nichols prepared. Again, it's 20,000 square feet. And you shouldn't necessarily look at it as this is the layout, because currently the land isn't owned. And so the actual layout and configuration would depend on what that land looks like. But it is a representation of how all of their space needs are met in a 20,000 square foot space. I would also highlight, it's a two-floor or two-story building. You gain efficiencies in terms of cost and footprint with a two-story facility like this. They estimate a 10 to 15% cost savings by doing a two-story building over a single story. And then on the right, this is kind of a schematic layout. Depending on where the site is located, whether detention is required or not, and then kind of the parking needs for the facility. In the middle, the second floor schematic, you notice that there's some white space kind of on the left. That is space that could potentially be used for future expansion if it's needed. So they're accounting for that. They built the 20,000 square foot need based on an annual call volume increase of 3%, which is what they've seen during their life in operation. So that's, then they built the people and then built the space needs around that.
Excuse me.
So, in conclusion, retrofitting an existing facility really is not a feasible option, cost prohibitive. The 30-year cost to own is about $25 million less than leasing a similar space. And based on the comparative cost and the need to provide a stable and predictable future for InTech, the board of directors has recommended building a new facility. So with that recommendation, the next steps would be sometime this year, late 2024, Intech will solicit requests for qualifications, put out a request for qualifications, and the board will select an architect. Expect about a year to design the facility, get it put out to bid and award for construction in late 2025, and then begin operations in the new facility in October of 2028. Now you might say, well, why does it take 3 years to build a facility? With the supply chain issues that we've all experienced in the building environment, they've budgeted a 2-year construction time frame, and then a full year to outfit the facility, get all the FF&E in, all the technology. They expect that to take 4 to 6 months, and then a 6-month testing period. So they'd basically be operating kind of in parallel as they move over and stand up their operation. And they'd be prepared to vacate the facility in April of 2029.
Didn't the current facility take longer than that?
I don't believe so, because the MOU was, well, let me just say, I wasn't here at the time, but based on the timeline that I've seen, the discussions around Intech being formed, the initial agreements were signed in 2014, and they started operation in 2016. So I think it's about a 2-year time frame based on those dates, but I'll confirm that and provide confirmation on that. So that does conclude the presentation that I have tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Kevin?
Completely random, I'm sorry. Who makes up the board of directors of Intech?
The city managers for each of the facility, each of the 4 cities.
Okay, excellent. I was not aware of that, thank you.
Is this currently housed over at the life safety park? Is this that dispatch? This is different from the dispatch center.
No, they're housed in a data center in Carrollton.
Okay. Which would be more along the lines of what you described.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ken.
It's over at Cirrus One on Frankfurt Road.
Oh.
Frankfurt, I-35 in Frankfurt.
It's a pretty nondescript building.
Mhm.
This would be as well.
John?
Hey, I missed it, but did you say the new location, if we were to build it, would be in that similar vicinity, or where are we talking about?
It's in the area, so they're currently have kind of identified 3 potential sites, and then once we get start moving and working with the architect, during the design process, they'll select a final site and move forward with it along with the board.
Okay, and then I'm guessing all cities have to agree on this, right? So where are they versus?
The cities, no, the board of directors has provided the direction. So this is really a briefing on where Intech is headed with this facility.
Okay, so it's been decided is going that way already.
Yes, the board has provided direction to move forward with a new facility as a cost-effective solution.
And what's the current number of people that are working at that location?
There are 74 employees and 57 dispatchers.
Okay, and then
I mean, of the 74, 57 are dispatchers.
okay, of the 7, okay. And what will be the maximum with the new facility? What maximum growth?
That I don't know.
That I don't know the people count for the space, but I know they've grown. What they've done is they've grown their call volume and then built out their staffing needs based on that, and then the space based on those staff.
So
John, a lot of the growth is, remember, Carrollton and Farmers Branch are growing in population, whereas Aspen's growing a little bit because they're more density. It's being driven really by Carrollton and Farmers Branch, and then the increased call volume.
and that's where I was going. I was wondering if they're almost at I heard that they're also being almost built out. So are they reaching the capacity and
The cities of Carrollton
Yeah.
and Farmers Branch, they're not, they still have a lot of room for growth. Plus they're,
Some of them said they're almost there.
well, yeah, but they're also considering higher density development along.
But yeah, they are actually going up vertical. There are
Right,
a number
whereas
of.
that's not the direction that we're currently going.
Right.
Could you please go back to the cost slide?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Tell me when to stop.
yeah, this one here. It's 3.9 million for Coppell if we owns it, ongoing maintenance, correct? So with 3.3 for rule in place, what is our budget for crime control?
Well, we have the funding for this particular program set aside, because we have budget for InTech now. And so essentially, it's part of the budget for InTech that comes out of crime control already.
I know it's 1/4 of the sales right now, right?
So, just real quickly, going back to 2019 and 20, when we made the reductions, we, in crime control district, because we knew we had jail services and dispatch, that we had to preserve the funds for doing that. That's when we moved quite a few of the personnel out of PD from crime control over to the general fund. So that the crime control district anticipates being able to fully support the jail and the dispatch operations. And as far as the budget's concerned, I don't have the budget in front of me right now, Bijou, so I.
That's fine, we can discuss later.
But as far as planning for it, it's been planned for.
Since you mentioned jail, I know we had to get out of the Carrollton jail. Are there any opportunity that they can say, we're getting out of it, we have to find something else?
Are you talking about as far as dispatch is concerned?
Yeah, we signed an agreement with other cities, right?
There is an extensive process if a city decides they no longer want to be in the dispatch center.
Okay.
And it's multiple years worth of effort to do that. So let's just say some city decided to put us on notice that they're going to get out. We have a time to adjust accordingly. Plus, we are constantly contacted by other entities to provide dispatch services. So while we've continually said no, because we want to make sure we're taking care of ours, we're fairly confident that there will be others that, if they ask us now, to take them on.
Excuse me. Seems like a no-brainer. But we're just being told, right, informed.
Well, no, right, I mean, there's a financial, right, there is a financial model that demonstrates that owning is better than leasing, especially with the increasing escalation clauses in the leases. So that was all part of the analysis. Then it became a situation of what's the right time because of the end of the lease in 29. That's why we backed up from there. That's why we're informing you today. It's going to be probably about a year or so, I guess, before it starts construction. So we have set aside the funds in the CRDC for our 12%, 15% with escalator. I think it's about $6 million, right? So we've already set it aside, our funds to be able to do our project. Each city is evaluating which way that they'd like to go as far as their financing.
Now, you see it in the financial analysis, but one of the things that this path does is it stabilizes the financial picture for InTech going forward. I think when they went back to the current landlord and asked for a proposal for the future 15 years, it was like double the cost, which is an expensive rate.
That's because the data centers are such demand.
Right.
If I'm wrong, whether I call the emergency number or the non-emergency number, that goes to this, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So it seems like it's pretty effective or efficient as to how they route the call, because when I called, it was pretty efficient. So I thought it was pretty good.
Just real quick, thank you, Mayor. So is this set up so that NTEC is a separate entity that would own the property, and then each of the member cities have an ownership or an equity interest in NTEC?
That's correct. I mean,
It's a corporation.
Intech's a local government corporation formed through statute, right? So Intech could actually issue debt.
Right, so it's a political
We're not
subdivision?
wanting it to issue debt, but it could. if it
Right.
wanted to. So yes, it is a political subdivision.
Okay. And then, is our percentage of the ownership in this determined by our use of the call center?
Yeah, so far, we haven't dived into that portion of it
Okay.
100% yet.
Yeah.
But right now, it's based on call volume, and there's actually a formula in the contract about how we pay.
So at the end of the day, if we were to sell this after 30 years, then we would get whatever our allocable share would be?
It's an equity position, basically.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Mike. I know there's a little off base. but-
No, it's okay. We have had the discussion. Right now, we're using our percentages as the guide for saying, this is how much our portion is.
I mean, that would seem to be another advantage of the ownership versus leasing, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we still have, you know, a payout in terms of our equity coming back at us, whereas with the lease, it just all be sunk cost. Thank you, sir.
Don, you had your hand up a while ago?
Jim asked me a question.
All right.
We're all good.
Anybody have anything else for Kent?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just gonna do-
All right, item D is an update regarding the Veterans Memorial Project design.
Exciting. You got it. All right. Good evening. I'm here tonight to provide you all an update regarding the Veterans Memorial Project. So last month, our consultant from Olson Studio was here to present some design concepts for the design of the memorial. And you get just me tonight. Our consultant will be back when we are at the 100% design mark, so we're very close this evening. So during that meeting back in December, council requested additional options specifically for the 6 memorial walls representing the 6 military branches. So there was definite desire for option A. We liked option A. We just wanted some different options on those walls. So since then, Olson has created 2 additional design concepts that I'm going to walk you through tonight, and we'd like to receive your feedback so that we can kind of advance this project to the next phase and close out this portion of the design. So first, I'm going to talk you through concept A. So last meeting, we heard a desire specifically around something regarding lighting, something special to kind of activate the space both day and night. So this concept includes 6 walls representing each branch made of frosted tempered glass panels that are internally lit. So these lights would coordinate to the specific military branches, so those colors of each branch. And then the panels, in terms of height, they're 15 feet high by 8 foot wide, so they're significantly pretty large. And each panel is going to display a 48-inch in diameter etched seal. So the examples you see, those pictures to the right, those are some lit pylons. So our consultant placed those here just to kind of show you the lighting effect that we could achieve in the evening hours. There are those LED colored lights. And on both concepts, you'll see tonight, both A and B, you're going to see that back wall from option C. And so we also heard a desire from council that we liked that as an option. This wall is 50 feet wide by 12 feet high, and it's currently here, as shown, would display a pin-mounted stainless steel flag, so it's going to be set from the stone slightly. The flag will be backlit, so it would be activated during the nighttime. So we would have blue light behind the star portion and red LED lights behind the stripes portion. And there's all kinds of cool things you can do in terms of LED light, in terms of making it wave and kind of really activating this space at night. So this design would be very, very vibrant in both the daytime and the nighttime, allowing the space to be activated and used in kind of a different experience based on what time of the day that you're there. And then moving on to our option B. So these memorial walls would include the same looter stone that you're going to see on the existing obelisk out in the plaza today. So the stone matches that. These are same height, 15 feet high, a little narrower. These are going to be 4.5 feet wide. Included, attached to each stone face is going to be an 8-foot tall perforated metal panel. Within that perforated panel is going to reveal the image or the seal of the military branch in that perforation. Behind the metal perforated panel is going to be LED lighting as well. And the very top of the structure currently calls for cast stone. So you can see there to the right, you can see an example of kind of the perforated metal art. You've probably seen these at different museums. Some perforated metal is included in other memorials that I've seen as well. So we've got option A and option B, and just briefly kind of where we're headed from here once we kind of chat about those two options. Tonight we're really looking on it for a consensus on either A or B so that way we can advance this project. Our consultant is kind of at the point needing an answer on the wall so that we can finalize our construction and bidding documents to advance this to construction, and then our consultant will be back to present the 100% final design, and then we award construction at a future council meeting. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and I have a feeling I'm going to go back to one of these. I'm going to start back here. If there's any questions I can answer.
Cost.
Great question. Both costs, so when council expressed the desire for option A last time in the 875 range, both those concepts you're seeing tonight, A and B, fall within that range. They're both comparable.
And I'm guessing the ongoing for maintenance-wise, that will be also comparable.
Right, exactly.
The acrylic sounds cool at night. What does it look like during the daylight?
So it's tempered glass. It's going to be commercial retail tempered glass, pretty thick, commercial grade, and in the daytime it's slightly frosted. So it's a frosted translucent effect in the daytime.
Don?
So the lights on the big monuments, they're different colors, right? Based on the branch.
Correct.
Okay, so what about on the other one? Are those the lights behind the metal piece? Is that just going to be a neutral light, or is it also going to be color coded?
So this design shows a neutral light.
Okay.
However, I could imagine that we would have the option to do a colored light there as well.
Okay.
I couldn't see why not.
Yeah. Well, has there been discussion at all? You know the paths back and forth between across the mound. Any option where you could light those pathways or anything like a dim?
Yes.
Is that an option or not? Or?
So when we receive kind of 100% plans, there's going to be a whole what our consultant is referring to a lighting overlay. So there's going to be a lot more lighting effects brought into the space, and we'll have some solar options, we'll have some hardwired in options, and the pathways are going to be included in that.
Okay. Thanks.
Did we get any input from our focus group?
No, back in the summer months, that focus group was sort of dismissed. As council said, you guys were ready to kind of take on this project and make these final decisions.
Okay, so. Okay.
Jim?
So the flags, how are they illuminated from behind? Are those glass you're saying, and they're colored glass, or?
Are you talking about the flags behind the back wall?
Yes.
Yeah, those are just your standard flag poles. They will be lit appropriately. Those are required to be lit, so that's going to be part of that lighting overlay.
And those are standard flags?
Yes, those are standard flag poles.
Okay.
Yes, those will be spec'd out to kind of matching flag poles in our system.
Okay, thank you.
Jessica, last time when you presented, I asked about informing the park board. You said you were going to go back after the council discussion. You informed them, are there any inputs from them?
So park board has not seen these because these were given to us after the park board meeting in January. So park board has yet to see these new designs.
No, I'm talking about option A and B. We went with option A.
Right. Council has not seen anything since our last meeting. So we weren't really, I'm sorry, park board, we weren't at the point to show them. There wasn't a lot of direction to give. I think we needed to kind of have an answer here before I'm updating the park board.
Don?
I tend to like this option. That's all I have. I like them both, but I tend to gravitate toward that one.
Can you go to the next slide? So when I look at the perforated metal and trying to get the kind of detail that you would want on that emblem for each branch, or that seal. I don't know that you're going to be able to actually achieve it. I think they're typically, when you see that type of art, it's on a much larger scale, and when you're standing away from it, you see it, but I don't know that you're going to be able to see that it's a Army or Navy or, yeah. So I'm more inclined to go with Don on.
Me too.
Because, that's going to be an etched, it can be very detailed, and when you backlight it, it'll be very dramatic because of the contrast between I'm assuming it'll be frosted when they say they're engraving it.
Correct.
So it'll refract light differently and really pop. And that terminus there that we had on both of them, I think is very strong with that, with the aluminum, stripes and stars and the light, the backlighting. I think that's going to be really dynamic. So I'm with Don on this one, concept A.
Kevin?
The flags, were they with they were moved to the individual, like the pillars on the edge, right? And so
Yes.
there's just been a consolidation
So
of,
in the original option A,
Yes.
they were kind of next to each pillar, and so when we didn't like option A, I think our consultant decided to kind of house them behind the back wall, which actually it creates a lot of visual interest, I think, behind that wall. But certainly those could still be moved.
John?
No, I was gonna say, I think last time the issue was that the design looked similar to what we had out there and was not too, I guess, lighting, right? But this kind of gives a contrast, so I do like this one too. And especially, I think you said that there's gonna be different illumination of the on the I guess each monument, right?
Right, so Army would be green. It's gonna test.
don't
There's a
start.
lot of blue. There's a lot of versions of blue. There's midnight blue. There's a royal blue. Marines are red. So
This looks good. And considering the height, and that is the actual height that's gonna be.
yes, it's a striking size.
Right.
what color is Space Force?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me
Of
that.
course I'm gonna ask
So
that.
okay, so it's another version of
It's
blue.
up
It's like a
Okay.
very, very dark, almost like a black blue.
Like space?
I think it's probably where that came from.
Star Trek.
There you go.
But it is. I think their color is officially midnight blue, but don't quote me on that.
There's a thing.
Don?
Probably a silly question, because you'll talk about the lighting overlay. I'm assuming it will be done tasteful. It's not gonna be like the inside of a smoke shop or something, like
No.
like lit up there or anything, right?
I've never been in one, but
You don't have to go on one, you have to drive by it. But it's I'm assuming a very tasteful.
absolutely. In fact, I think the opportunity to activate this space at night is one of the most exciting parts of this project.
Yeah, okay.
Which one do you go to?
Well,
Yeah.
I'll throw Don a lifeline at this point.
Help him.
I was kind of concerned too about the lighting. I mean, I want it to be very respectful and dignified, and not look like, I was gonna use Glitter Gulch as an option. But, so originally, the designs also had, where we currently have the picnic tables and those trees, we're gonna have a battle crosser. So this is now the entirety of the project.
No, so great question. So everything that you've seen before, encompassing sort of the seating area and the remembrance zone, that all stays, since we heard direction at the December meeting that was all good. So that's kind of already done. And really the only thing in question was these memorial walls, and to somewhat the back wall as well.
And that area and all the rest of it is also encompassed within the 875 projected budget.
I'm with Mark on the perforated metal. I believe that those would be much too small to be able to actually resolve down to the detail. And I do like the back monument with the flag. That was a very nice compromise on what was we talked about last time around. Kevin?
I was gonna say, I do like the concept A design, so I wanna put myself down for that. Just as far, I'm really excited to see what the lighting plan is gonna look like, because the motion, the potential motion that might be able to achieve through LEDs and stuff, I think that would be a very, very exciting element to this. My only concern about A would be during the daytime, the etched seals, just making sure that they are clearly visible. And so it'd be interesting maybe to see, like, you know, what if that was maybe a potential solid piece, you know, or something like a cast piece that was there with the rest of it being translucent being lit around it. And, you know, not trying to pick apart the design too much, but
Sure.
that would be my only concern about this was, you know, what would the seal look like in the daytime? I understand that there would be that frosted glass element and stuff, and it would provide some contrast, but, you know, is that enough impact to make sure that the seals are recognizable and I guess displayed respectfully and make sure it looks very clear what they are intended to be, so.
I'll
I
pass that on.
wonder if you could do something with lighting in during the day that gives an opposite look, so it does sort of shine through. So.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to be respectful of the seal.
Brianna?
I'm for A as well. I do like that because I wondered about the seal, but because I just looking at the dimensions of it, and I think that's right. You're saying like make sure that it is visible and clear during the day, so that would be the one. But just I had the same question Jim did with regards to the other part of it because I guess I was only seeing this. Do you have a slide by any chance just to remind me of what we said yes to on the other part?
Yes, so here is your bird's eye view. So kind of the section F there is going to be currently where the tables and chairs are out here now, directly adjacent to the Justice Center. That's where the Battlefield Cross and the limestone seating blocks are going to be.
Right. Okay.
All of the current seating is then going to shift to G and over into that new seating area. So,
Okay.
So we're going to repurpose all of that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
And so, on that larger terminus, what's on the other side of it that we're not seeing? Is it just?
So that will, I think, as we finalize 100% plan. So there's going to be some landscaping and flower beds. So there's a little flower bed kind of peeking out barely there. There's still definitely opportunities there, but it is going to be landscaped.
But is it just going to be rock wall?
Yes.
I mean, just a plain rock wall?
Yeah, and the flagpoles will be lining back there.
Okay,
So-
I got you. So it'll be more of a bed back there.
Correct.
So, and then on the monuments themselves, I mean, are they recommending like some type of graffiti-proof glass or something? I know a lot of like subways and some other public facilities use materials that make it difficult to.
Yeah, so it definitely will be commercial grade, and I know our consultant's looking at every possible option to deter that effort. But it is something that, you know, we inspect all of our facilities and all of our equipment and fixtures for that daily, so that would just be something that we look for. And certainly, if that were to happen, we would take care of it immediately.
Well, I'm on board with A.
Me too.
Okay.
I do have one more question. So where it's labeled translucent panels, is that tempered glass?
Currently spec'd for tempered glass.
Tempered glass, okay. You know, I think that engraved seal, if they do it from the backside, if someone spray paints it, they're gonna be able to wipe it off the glass, scrape it off the glass. As long as they don't have the relief facing out.
Yeah,
It's like in the grooves of the.
Yeah,
I
you get
see.
We've got a consensus of
I appreciate you all very much.
Quick question, do we have cameras out there? I mean, I would hope that the fact that it's by the police station would deter people from vandalizing it, but do we have cameras in
We
that
do, and a portion
Okay.
of this project will include supplementing our
Perfect.
security.
Thank you.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Each one of those has a camera.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you all so much. We'll work on finalizing the design, and we'll be back before you hopefully early spring to get this awarded. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, item E is a report from me on the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Last week I had the opportunity to attend a a nationwide conference in Washington, D.C. And it essentially is set up a lot like TML. They have classes, they have sessions you go to. A lot of the sessions are there are other mayors that are doing the presenting. The interesting thing was, I met more mayors from Texas at this thing in Washington, D.C. than I normally meet at TML. Just to give you an idea, George Fuller McKinney was there, Jim Ross of Arlington, John Cowan of Brownsville, Lee Urbanowski of Buda, Paulette Gallardo of Corpus Christi, Gerard Hudspeth of Denton, David Billings of Fate, Matty Parker of Fort Worth, Bill Barty of Port Arthur, and Ron Nuremberg of San Antonio were all there. And that there were 298 mayors from across the country that attended. And the session was very well done. I got to tell you, we know that Coppell is a special place, but after listening to the other mayors, we've got it made. I mean, the problems that the cities have around the country some of them are so perplexing that they really don't know how to begin solving them. The number one issue that every city had was homelessness. And there were numerous, tries and attempts at solving homelessness. The mayor of Reno, Nevada, actually had a very interesting way. One of the things with homelessness is there's not a single cause that makes a person choose to live on the street. And Reno has created it's not a commission, it's a group of people that actually go out and live with the homeless. And they get to know the homeless, and the homeless people, residents, get to know them. And they live in communities. And so they get to be trusted. And once they're trusted, they can figure out why the homeless people are out there. Then they can address the root cause. It's not a quick solution. It's not easy because it takes somebody that has been there and done that. But almost every city that I was talking to, with the exception of Buda, I think, had a homeless problem. And they'd ask us what we're doing about it. It's like, well, if we have a homeless person, our police department will pick them up and we'll turn them over to a social worker and we'll address the root cause. And that's really what the solution is. So I was overwhelmed at the difficulties that some of the cities, most of the cities around the country are having. The second item that we're dealing with nationwide is mental health. And that is driving some of the homeless. But many cities are really struggling with the mental health. So they'd come to, they'd ask me what we were doing. I said, well, we have a number of services that we provide, that we use to attend to our citizens' mental health, and it's working for us. And that, again, I was just listening to the number of mayors talking about their problems with mental health throughout their communities, driving violence and homelessness and theft and just, all sorts of stuff. The one thing that we did have in common was the opioid crisis, fentanyl in particular. And that is hitting everybody at an increase. It's continuing to escalate and increase. When I said that, yes, we have the Narcan available on the ambulances, and that's gotten to be almost a routine occurrence throughout the country. So fentanyl is still big on the issue. The other one that they were talking about, and this was more at the national level, we call it the border crossing problem. Nationally it's the immigration code. And everyone admitted that the immigration code is completely messed up, and to fix all of the other issues related to that, we need to address it at the national level. And that's really a federal thing. But that was another one that was hitting everybody. And the last big one, actually, that we were seeing was in dealing with law enforcement, police recruitment, pay and retention. Some of the big cities are having horrible problems with retention. the police officers are leaving the profession early. And it's making it very, very difficult for especially the larger cities to keep their police forces inactive. Speakers, I think we had about half of the cabinet members speak at different events. Just a short list: Julie Sue, who was acting Secretary of Labor; Tom Perez was advisor to the President; Xavier Becerra was Secretary of Health; Paula Beatty was Deputy Director of the FBI; Jennifer Granholm, Secretary of the Department of Energy, Secretary of the Department of Energy; Alejandro Mayorkas was the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security; Pete Buttigieg was the Secretary of the Department of Transportation. And the photos I brought back up here on the left, that lady I was in awe of her. She is the British ambassador to the United States, so she is the British ambassador. She stood in a receiving line and let all 300 of us have our picture taken with her. It must have taken her 2 hours, and she was gracious and was unbelievable. Her name, she's got a title, Her Excellency Dame Karen Pierce, DCMG, is the official British ambassador to the U.S. They did have the Vice President, Kamala Harris, speak. That's the middle photo. And then they did bus us over to the East Wing of the White House, where we got to listen to President Biden. I never had been around a president, and it was interesting to watch all the hand-holding and all of it was very controlled. There was no high-fiving. Anyway, the last person I was going to talk about, and I did have an ask of you guys. The mayor of San Antonio, Ron Nirenberg, spoke on the preemption by various states, and he was using Texas as an example. And that was HB 2127, the Death Star bill. And San Antonio, Houston, Waco, Denton, Fort Worth, and some other cities have actually filed a lawsuit against the state. And he asked us to file an amicus curiae, I believe that's the right word for it.
Amicus brief.
Amicus brief to support their lawsuit. And I told him I was in support of that, and I would come to you guys and get permission to do that. We've done an amicus brief before for the airport. It doesn't commit us to anything. There's no cost involved. It's basically a paper telling the court that we are in favor of the filing.
On what issue?
On the Death Star bill.
Which would be what?
Oh, that was the super preemption bill that was passed by the legislature and signed by the governor. HB 2127.
I'm just not even familiar with it.
Oh, okay. The legislature passed a very invasive bill that strips a significant amount of the city's abilities to make decisions. They took, Mike, help me out. There was like 8 points.
There were 8 points. One of them had to do a lot had to do with code compliance, agriculture,
finance.
Okay, okay, now I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's just a long line of. We've been doing that for years.
So, can I get a thumbs up on filing the amicus brief?
Can we get a details before we say yes or no?
Details on what?
You said 8 items.
We can certainly give you a copy of the bill that was signed into law, yes.
I'm not familiar with it, that's what I'm saying.
When you say it doesn't cost us,
Well,
even filing a brief, someone's got to file it, and that's the cost.
there's a cost to have
The-
spend the time to write it.
the administrative cost, but it's not going to cost us any court cost or
Right.
there's no liability with the outcome of the lawsuit. Sorry, you're right. Kevin?
Have you talked to city attorney about it? Any issues?
He'll
Bob's answer to the question that the mayor asked, can we do that? And the answer was yes.
All right. I was gonna ask, city manager, do you have any issues with us supporting that?
I don't know.
All right.
I'm all for it.
I am too.
That's why you
three.
have
I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'd be curious what Has the lawsuit already been filed?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be
It's-
curious what the lawsuit reads, I mean, what relief they're trying to get or whatever, I guess just trying to overturn
Well,
it.
Well, overturn it, but the biggest issue is it's the ambiguous language. So they wrote these things into statute, that these great interpretation basically up between the lawyers and the court. So the answer is, if somebody don't like what you do, sue, and oh, by the way, when you sue, the city has to pay for the lawsuit.
Enforceability.
1, 2, 3.
4, 5.
Yeah.
I'd like to know more about it, but I don't.
We'll
It sounds
we'll send out,
general.
we'll send out a copy of the bill tomorrow.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna say.
TML's got a summary of it as well, if you go to their webpage.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I'm guessing that you saying let's sign on, that there is no, I guess, that's gonna come back and bite us, right?
Well, it's politics, sir. How about?
That part, no, that part,
I can't answer that
that
question.
part I understand, I'm just talking about the,
From
I
a,
guess,
from a
what's
logistic
his,
standpoint, in terms of the way we do business, no, I mean, they've already passed the law.
no, I mean, whatever the lawsuit, the substantive, whatever that part is, we, without knowing, I'm just saying that if we do sign up, it's not gonna come back.
Well, it's an amicus brief,
Okay,
so it's just,
but,
Like a letter of support.
no, I understand, but I'm saying, we don't know what that was, what that petition says, without knowing it. I'm guessing you supporting it, we're not gonna have any issues in terms of supporting whatever that's in there without even knowing it.
Bob's online, let your city attorney answer that
Yeah.
question.
Bob,
Bob?
Wake up.
Is he still there?
it says
He's
talking,
talking. He's trying.
We can't hear you, hold on just a minute.
I can hear him out there.
Yeah, you can hear him up there. Hold on, Bob.
Oh.
Bob, repeat everything you said.
Yeah.
Not yet.
While we're waiting for him, the
Bless
cen-
you.
the center picture of the vice president, that was in the hotel that the conference was being held. They had a ring of Secret Service agents that were keeping anybody from getting within 20 feet of it. And
Boxed out.
it was very interesting watching all the. And when we went to the British Embassy, they just turned everybody loose.
Hey, I meant to ask you, did they say what were some of the reasons why they had high turnover on the officers?
Yes, they did. Some of it not some of it, a lot of it is related to the public perception of the police force, that they're not being appreciated, especially after the George murder. That had a lot to do with it. The motions to defund the police have hurt morale around the country. Just the different councils have been approaching their city, their police departments differently, and it's not made relations good between the various police departments and the cities.
So part of it is the city was not really supporting the officers.
And the citizens aren't supporting them,
Okay.
yes. So, when they asked us how we were doing, I was like, we're in heaven, guys.
Did you see you can't get rid of it? No.
No, I mean, it was shocking how, when you get into how some of the cities are, they're all glossy on the outside, but man, inside they're not.
I know we're,
I couldn't believe that ambassador stood for 2 hours out there.
Did you see how tired she looks?
I know.
I was not one
She
of
was
the
like,
last
hurry up.
ones. Yeah, Brianna?
I know, while we're waiting for Bob, you mentioned where we have some commonality, with the other cities and states with regards to opiate and fentanyl, and I know our police officers are here, but, and I know that it's a top priority for our chief, and, I don't know where this fits, so I'll just make this comment, and then, I know Mike's not here, but our other deputy managers are here. If somewhere along the line, it would be good to have a conversation of how do we partner with our schools to communicate this information to, I mean, it's not going to just go away, but what do we do to increase awareness and just to do more in that space? So.
And I think nationally they're trying to get their hands around that question.
Yes, yes.
Because I don't think anybody has a good answer yet.
No, and I know we don't have a good answer, and I know we don't have a solution per se, and I know our officers are dealing with it on a very regular basis. So, what can we at least do at the community level, especially with our SROs and just our community?
And I will tell you that other states have different ideas on than what the state of Texas believes. So.
Gotcha. Okay.
It got very political.
I'm sure it, yeah. I'm just saying if there's just something we can do, that's a great opportunity for us to partner with our schools.
And the emerging thought was that, at least at this stage, communication, especially with the kids, is paramount. And the parents.
And I thought we were in communication with the school board and Brad and his team on all that too.
And Mike can probably speak to that, and I'm sure I know that we are, and our chief will say as well as we are. I think what I'm hearing around the community, this is just me, is the fact that there are things that are happening at our schools that we're not even hearing in the community. So it's kept very quiet. And so what do we do to draw awareness and actually talk about it? We had the same situation years ago with like our suicide numbers, and obviously mental health is a big issue, and it all kind of goes hand in hand. So what do we do to talk about it?
Yeah, I know it's so insidious because the kid can just be buying what he thinks is an Adderall.
Yeah.
It's just some prefab fake drug with fentanyl in it.
Right, absolutely. Great.
That's good.
Still working on it.
Oh, okay.
It's fine, huh?
I think, we still have time, I guess.
Oh, yeah, we do have time.
On the phone, put it on speakerphone.
Yeah,
To be honest, some of the things that they always come back to talk about they can't disclose a lot of things that happens in school because of
The age,
the
right,
age policy
absolutely.
issue, and that might be why we're not hearing some things that,
Right,
you know,
right. And totally understand, I think there's some pieces of that.
yeah.
Is there a way for us to take that narrative without identifying specifics,
No, I
right?
agree, but a lot of times, I did ask that before, but it's always come back to.
Back to the age, yeah, I hear you.
Can I call Bob on my phone? And
She's starting right now.
Okay,
Oh.
all right. I'm gonna put you on speakerphone, okay?
Is he out there?
No, it's working fine out there.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
Bob, go.
Yeah, to answer the question, one is we probably need to educate you a little more too, and I think I heard Mike say that he would provide you with a copy of the bill. Even after you read the bill itself, there's another number of codes that are delineated where the legislature has attempted to preempt the local community's ability to regulate in those areas. And it can be devastating. I think Mike talked about building codes. There's some erosion in zoning. There's erosion in, I think, what they call the agricultural code, which sounds like something we don't need to be involved in, but may have to do with how many livestock animals you could even have in a community like Coppell's. So as far as there being any consequences, there shouldn't be any consequences. If the bill had a number of sponsors, I believe even, I think Tan Parker, who is fairly local, was a sponsor of the bill, and it may have more applicability in what I would call less populated areas of the state. So this vagueness issue raises to the level of a constitutional issue, being constitutionally vague, and violates the Texas Constitution because of the vagueness and because of provisions of home rule. Because it really does cut against home rule. So, it may be that we need to educate you more on that. I don't have any problem seeing if we can acquire a copy of the lawsuit for those that want to read it so that they know what the legal issues are that we would be filing an amicus brief on, but we can get that information in the TML website. I think Mike alluded to as well. It's very helpful for you to understand and get you that information. Mayor, was there any deadline that was discussed by filing the amicus brief?
There was not.
Okay. So maybe get that information to you and get a consensus. If you don't have one tonight, it's fine. Before we run off and do anything, we would be back to you for an executive session to discuss what our amicus brief would cover in that regard.
I mean, Bob, wouldn't they be filing that, this is still the trial court level, right?
Yeah.
So that, they wouldn't even file it probably until summary judgment phase, right?
Correct. It's a legal issue.
Okay.
So Bob, this is Biju. With this law in place, what decision Coppell City Council cannot make that we used to make specifically?
Well, it would take away your right to have a local exemptions to the building code. It would preclude your ability to regulate such things as maybe livestock. It may affect your tree ordinance. It really cuts into home rule of time, which we've enjoyed in Texas for almost well over 150 years at this point. So this whole idea of home rule city is being undercut. Like I say, I think it might have some application in more rural parts of Texas, but in some response, the governor has been very proactive and very vocal in supporting this kind of legislation because of maybe some of the issues that have come out of Travis County over the years. So I'll be happy to answer any questions, Mayor, if anyone has any other specific. I don't think there's any more risk of us opposing this than it would any other legislation or administrative rule that hurts our ability to govern ourselves.
As far as cost goes, Bob, is this kind of a standard deal where they just hire some type of public affairs organization, they draft the brief, and then they're just asking us to lend our name to it?
Yeah, that may be what we end up doing. I would call Scott Houston, who's been used to be the TML General Counsel, and I know he has weighed in on this. We may end up just lending our name on behalf of the city to a brief that's already being proposed, or if there's an issue they would like for us to cover that one of the rest of them doesn't cover, then we would look at that.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thanks, Bob. I believe that's got it.
And
All
thank
right.
you, Ashley.
Bye.
All right, do we have anything else? All right, well, the time is 6:53 p.m. We're at the end of the regular session. We'll move into the council chambers for the regular session, which will begin at 7:30. Good evening, everybody. The time is 7:30 p.m. and we're going to move into the regular session of the Coppell City Council. Just as a reminder of anyone wanting to speak tonight during the citizens' appearance must sign the appropriate register located outside the council chambers and list your residence address. This evening we have Stephanie Cephas with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to give the invocation. We'll follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please remain standing.
Our dear Father in heaven, we're so grateful for this day, and we're grateful that we have this beautiful building to meet in the city of Coppell, and we are grateful for Mayor Mays and all of the counselors, and we pray that they would be able to be filled with a spirit of being able to make the decisions that are to be made in the best interest for the city of Coppell, and we are so grateful for this beautiful city that we live in, and say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Item number 5 on our agenda is a presentation from our Smart City Board. They're going to be making some recommendations, and we have Ramesh Premkumar and Nitin Vingarlarka. Sorry about the last name. Ramesh.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. My name is Ramesh Premkumar, and I was the chair for the Smart City Board last year. I'm still a member now, but not the chair. The names you see on the slide are all the people of the Smart City Board in 2023, and thanks to all of their hard work, the recommendations you're going to hear today was created and worked on by the entire board. So just as a reminder, thanks to the citizens' input in Vision 2040, this wonderful council created the Smart City Board back in 2019, and we started our first board meeting in 2020. The role of the Smart City Board was to be the futurist, to look at the technology trends and come back to all of you with recommendations of how we can make Coppell a better place to live. As you all know, the city of Coppell has pretty highly educated and successful people. Most of them are tech savvy, and they do want the city of Coppell to be a smart city. So that's why the board has been working on the recommendations that you're going to hear. So back in 2020, the Smart City Board put together a framework that we were going to work on, and you all approved this framework that you're seeing on this slide. As you can imagine, a smart city will require a lot of groundwork. So this framework has several pillars that we have been working on. In fact, all the pillars with the numeric number on them, those are the ones that we were working on. In 2021, the board worked on pillar number 2 and 4, and then in 2022, we worked on pillars 3 and 5. And then last year, we worked on pillar 1, which is resource management and digital twin. So the recommendation for this pillar is what we plan to cover today. Again, as a quick recap, back in 2021, among all the recommendations that we had presented to the City Council, you had approved the hiring of an expert that would do a complete assessment, and I have here the assessment of the needs, the infrastructure needs for Coppell. And then in 2022, among all the recommendations that we had made, you had approved the funding and branding Coppell as a smart city. Thank you for that. Hopefully, some of the recommendations we have today, you will like them and you will approve them. So the process for today is my friend Nitin is going to come up and then he's going to give you a recap and the scope of pillar number 1, which again, like I said, is resource management and digital twin. He's going to walk you through all the research that we have done. He's going to cover it at a very high level, but he's going to spend some time to describe how to go about the recommendations. And before I hand it over to him, I would like to kind of use an example for you to think about while you listen to Nitin. So today, most of you are smartphone users, and you're able to ask your phone, hey Siri or hey Alexa, what's the weather going to be tomorrow? And somehow that device can know which city you're calling from. It knows your location and is able to get back to you with the local weather. So think of that, and now imagine in the future, maybe in 3 years down the road or 5 years down the road, if a Coppell resident talks into their smart device and says and asks the question, hey, what's the best time for me to go to Andy Brown? So for the device to be able to answer that, it has to know a little bit about the person who's asking that question. It has to know a little bit about the usage of Andy Brown at that point in time. So that's the kind of problem we are hoping that we can solve if we follow these recommendations. So it's going to start with gathering data, understanding our citizens, understanding the context in which they're asking that question, and being able to answer that. So how we achieve that, that's what Nitin is going to cover. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. By the way, I'd like to extend my thanks for letting me sit on the board. I've been living in Coppell for 30 years, so it's great to actually serve on that board and see all the big changes in Coppell over the last 30 years or so. So I'm going to, like Marimesh said, I'm going to talk about the portfolio overview, go through some research that we did over this past year, and walk through a couple of recommendations, right? All right. So portfolio 1, as Ramesh mentioned before, is the focus of this discussion, and it really breaks down to two areas: resource management and digital twin. Right. So from a resource management perspective, the context is really budget funding, city staff, facilities, tools, and equipment. So that's the data we want to collect around that space. From a digital twin perspective, you guys, this may be a new term for you folks. Digital twin doesn't mean that it's your avatar in a video game, right? So what we're talking about from a digital twin perspective, it's a virtual representation of a physical object. So think of Det and Tap by a Wrangler or airline, that being a digital twin. It's a representation of a physical thing, that being a street, or it could be a street light, or it could be a building, right? So what does digital twin mean to a city? Well, we want to be able to monitor and manage these resources associated with traffic, right? Well, let's say we wanted to put in a Chick-fil-A where there's an Einstein Brothers there. What kind of traffic impact would that have? What if we put it next to the high school? What kind of impact would that have there, right? So we want to be able to model those kind of things and emulate and simulate those kind of sequences and configurations. So that's what that means from a portfolio perspective. Next, this is my slide. All right, so portfolio 1, what is the purpose, right? So the purpose here is really around, the main goal is data collection, collecting it ethically, modeling that data, and be able to use that data modeling to solve some key challenges within the city, right? So if we synthesize this down, what it really means is we need 2 areas of focus. One is collecting the right data, ethical data collection to tailor new programs, empower data usage for data-driven decision making. The other is smart data management, using the latest technologies to make these decisions correctly, using the right platform, and really empowering folks to be able to use that data in the right way. So 2 areas: it's data management and data data itself, right? So Coppell Smart City Initiative will help really usher in 2 areas: address economic development, public and private partnerships, and city awareness. That's our key focus in this portfolio. So we did a little research this past year, and one of the things what we realized is that citizens are going to interact with the city and use city services differently than they do today, right? We're already starting to see that behavior, right? Our citizens are using things like Neighborhood, they're using Ring, they're using social media apps to get their information. In fact, my kids use apps, and my kids won't even talk to anybody who's 10 years older than them. So this is the way things are going, right? So we're going to have to start addressing it from that perspective. And cities are also have more advanced transportation systems that are going to evolve over the years. Public transit is going to happen. Ride sharing is already making an impact, and autonomous vehicles, we're going to see that in the next within 5, 6, 10 years or so. So collecting that data is going to be critical, and understanding that citizen behavior and coordinating different modes of transportation and optimizing that efficiency. To that end, we already talked about digital twin, right? In order to benefit from digital twin, we need to have the clear use cases. We need to have a clear vision from all stakeholders. How are we going to use digital twin? So our Coppell City staff has already met with Ceradel, which is a local vendor that focuses on digital twin, and we went through their portfolio. And they even talked to neighboring cities such as Farmers Branch, and they talked to Addison. And neither of them are looking at the digital twin, and primarily because of the cost, and primarily also because they haven't really gone through use cases. So what we're going to have to do going forward is come up with some, relevant use cases, wait for the cost to come down, and once it becomes democratized, I think we can leverage it. So I'm going to go through some of the recommendations in this portfolio, right? And keep in mind, these recommendations are building blocks. So first, second, and third are really all building blocks for the third one. Think about that from a cumulative perspective. So the first recommendation is improve the use of city resources through data visibility. We already talked about that, right? We want to collect the right data in an ethical way, in an ethical manner, right? So this recommendation here is a foundational recommendation for all the downstream recommendations we're going to talk about. So again, like I said, ethical data collection will help tailor new programs, update policies, be able to create new services, and provide an AI-powered recommendation engine like Ramesh was talking about, right? And really, this recommendation comes down to a framework, and the framework we're talking about is people, process, and technology. That's what we're going to have to invest in. Recommendation number 2 is develop a city intelligent push notification capability, kind of what Ramesh was talking about before, right? So right now we do have push notification that comes from the city. That's about, it revolves around weather, those kind of things. But think about it this way: it would be nice to have an investment for the citizens to have a skin in the game to be able to do push notification. And one of the things I didn't mention is my daytime job. I do this. I work in the public sector. I focus on working with cities, New York City, Albuquerque, and all these other large cities, working on these kind of things. So we're digitizing 311 systems. And the center focus behind digitizing 311 systems is to be able to have citizens have some input into those notifications. Things like coyote sightings, maybe it would be things like pothole notification, or it could be graffiti, abandoned vehicles. Be able to provide that capability of notifying the city of those things, and the city notifying citizens in a bidirectional way, right? So that's going to provide higher quality service through increased and very targeted communication. Ramesh mentioned before about geographical location. It'd be great to have notifications that are for a specific area in my neighborhood rather than a broadcast across the city. The last one is develop a Coppell Citizen 360 and intelligent digital assistant. So these terms may be new too. So when we talk about Citizen 360, we're talking about a holistic view of what does a citizen do, right? How does a citizen interact with the city? What services does he use? How often does he vote? Again, this is all ethical way of collecting this data, but being able to collect this data and be able to use it and be able to provide some targeted information for that citizen is really meaningful. The second part of this is having a digital assistant. Like Ramesh mentioned, wouldn't it be great if we had an Alexa or some kind of device that you can ask a question and it gives you a complete workflow? Great examples I've been watching the social media is a lot of questions on how do you get a permit? And there's a lot of misinformation, and if we can create a workflow such that not only give it targeted information about a permit, but a workflow on how you go about getting it, what the costs are, and maybe what are the ups and downs about getting this permit in this time of year, right? So it's very detailed, targeted information. But those are two key areas: Citizen 360, collecting the right data for the citizen, and providing an intelligent chatbot, conversational way of interact with the citizens. And with that, I want to focus on our key takeaways here. So I gave you quite a bit of information there. So the takeaways here are prioritize the use cases during a retreat this month. Again, we talked about digital twins. What are the use cases for that? How do we collect ethical data? Approve the IT budget to initiate creating the framework. Remember, framework as people, process, and technology. And recommend to wait until the cost of adoption of digital twin is more cost justifiable for the city of Coppell. With that, I am done. I went a little fast. I apologize.
You put out a lot of words in a very short period of time.
Yeah, I apologize.
That's okay. A lot of information. Council, do you have any questions? Councilmember Nevels.
Gentlemen, thank you all so much for your presentation this evening. Just a question about data and privacy. So when we talk about building these frameworks or ethical collection of data, who would own that data? What does that look like? How would it be accessed? How would it be controlled? And I know that this might be very early on to ask those kind of questions, but obviously digital security is very important for a lot of people. So what does that look like in the fact that we're a government agency talking about collecting data on citizens? So if you could explain just a little bit of that.
Sure. And my daytime job is data management, so I can give my take and you can join. So the city will own the data, and you can separate it with personally identifiable data versus general data. You obviously have to be most cautious about personally identifiable data, and for most of the things that we are recommending, we don't have to go into the PII level of data. So once we have a model created, we say age group of 40 to 50, certain gender, so we can then use generalities to make decisions. So that is one way of making sure data is secure. You want to add anything?
Yeah. No, I think that's right. So we don't necessarily need to collect names as such. We need to understand your interaction with the city and how you're using the service. Maybe you're not using service, or it could be AI-powered things like you used, let's say, the mindfulness presentation that happened at the library. If you use that, you may want to look at the art center that's having a guest speaker. It could be something as mundane as that. But again, we don't want to collect names. We don't want to collect birth dates and social security numbers. It's all high-level information, so we can have very targeted information for you.
No, thank you for that clarification. I think it's important for the citizens to understand what type of data is being collected and how to be used. So thank you so much for that explanation. I appreciate it.
Councilmember Matthew.
Thank you, Mayor. Nitin, this question for you. The city have a smartphone app, police and also the city have it. Question for you. You cited an example, coyote sighting, and that I see Nextdoor app. How do we bridge that gap? The residents needs to push into the city server or city collection of servers and address this privacy issue, as well as collecting all this data, and city is saving this information now. How do you bridge that gap from the app we have to where you want to go?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of this is going to be aggregation of data, right? We got to collect the right data. And right now, even if you look at the neighborhood and those ring services, they don't tell you exactly. They give you kind of a radius of where it is. So we want to kind of do that. This idea is mine that data, collect that data. Obviously, there's going to have to be a partnership with those other apps to be able to collect it, mine it, and target it into a different area. A good example is we're working with another city, West Coast, where they're taking ring information, collecting it, and being able to subscribe with an opt-in capability for the police to be able to use that information to maybe triage crime or whatever it could be. So we're already starting to see those kind of things. But those apps that you talk about that we're using, they're very static information. We need real-time information, and it's targeted, right?
Okay, thank you for the presentation.
If I can add.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
As you mentioned, today the data is fragmented. So Nextdoor has some other app has some. So when we have a fragmented situation, it's difficult to create a persona and have enough data to come up with predictive things. So the artificial intelligence we are trying to recommend, it'll work best if most of the data is within city control. So as you build more data about your citizens, you will be able to come up with use cases like what Nitin mentioned, that it looks like, Mr. Matthew, you like to go to the core, perhaps you want to go to this event at the forest safety or what have you. So to make those kinds of connection and give you meaningful recommendations, it's better to have most of the citizen data within the city network.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. I'm not tech savvy, so some of the things that I've heard, it sounds like Councilmember Matthew talked about, some of the things we already have the apps to have interaction with the citizens and the city of Coppell, the staff. So it sounds like somewhat redundant in some part. So how do we are we overdoing this about what you talked about, and are we really? Is it in the interest of the city staff, considering the manpower that we have, if everyone had that push notification to whatever the issue may be to all, I don't know, 120, 200 residents start sending the information to the staff, is that something that the staff have the capability of addressing it versus what we currently have where they report online requests and so on? So I'm just trying to understand a little better as to what you're presenting, because again, it sounds redundant, and it's maybe we're going more than what we actually need.
So, Councilmember Jun, you kind of asked several questions in that one. So let me start with the need, right? So it's going to be obvious that citizens in 3 years, 4 years are going to expect a certain level of services from the city. They're going to see that San Francisco or Boston has these features that we don't have, right? So we need to take some steps to close the gap with the other cities. As to, is it going to be duplication of what we have? I think not. So today, with the data, we are not capturing a lot of data. With the limited amount of data that we are capturing, the city staff is doing a great job of delivering service. What we are talking about is collecting even more data, and that giving us the capability of providing more services. And the third question I think you asked is, do we have the staff to do that? If we do this right, we are going to use a lot of artificial intelligence. So as we grow the data, the bot will learn from the data, and a lot of the responses will first be answered by the bot. We'll probably have a robust FAQ that the bot can rely on. So this is going to be helping the city staff. And if we truly have a need to add someone, I think the city staff will make the case for you.
Yeah, the point you mentioned is very valid, because we struggle with that. Like, are we recreating something that's already exists, or do we want to extend that? So the app that you're talking about is great for static information. If I want to see what the holidays are, when the voting is. But what if I wanted? We already seen the advent of ChatGPT. Even Google search is starting to go away. We're starting using ChatGPT type ways to not only search information, but give us detailed information. So we're trying to use that platform as a way to get information. So think about, let's say if I wanted to park somewhere during the 4th of July parade, what is the best place to park, and what are other people saying? If you only aggregate that information from various sources, that gives me information about, park over here because it's safer to be over here. You can have a great view of the fireworks, right? Those kind of things is what we're thinking about. Static information is always going to be on that app. I think we'll still use it, but to have that conversational AI capability of being able to communicate bidirectionally with the system is great. Alexa is a great example. How do I ask a question about trash pickup on a day when it's frozen, right? Those kind of things.
So a follow-up on that, you talked about bidirectional, right? And with all the, I guess, the venue of communication that we have, the city has, we're still not at 100% capacity of communicating with the residents, right? And it works both ways. If no matter how great of an app that we have, if the citizens are not willing to participate from the other side, then it really does no good with the app. Have you looked into how we can get more citizens engaged, even with the app that or the process that you're talking about?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. The thing, that engagement is already happening. It's happening in a different platform. We're seeing it in Facebook page. We're seeing it in a neighborhood. We're seeing it in all these different places. So the engagement is happening. It's not happening within that app, right? So we just need to tap into it, either aggregate that information or play a part in that, right? We need to be an active role player in those spaces rather than just being a bystander and listening to what's happening on Facebook. Does that make sense?
And we not specifically look at how to increase awareness. We are working under the assumption that when we look around the industry, if an application is really good and it's adding value, then the reputation, grows, and your neighbor is recommending to another one that this is a good app. So if we build a good thing, I think people will come.
One last one?
Sure.
So you mentioned about the third part, I guess, what is it, digital twin was too cost prohibitive at this point. I don't recall you mentioning about what the other two-prong costs will be, or estimated costs will be to implement those two. Was that, or did I miss that?
You're talking about the recommendation 1 and 2?
Uh-huh.
So we did not include a cost estimate. So at this time, what we are recommending is that if you will approve the city staff to go ahead and research what it'll take to implement the framework, then I think the city staff would be better suited to give that estimate. As part of our board deliberation, we didn't come up with a cost.
Okay, all right.
We'll extend that. Having personal exposure to this in my day job, the costs are really variable because first it's the implementation, it's the sensors, it's the collection of data, and then actually people aspect of it is making use of it. One of the problems we've seen with Smart City, a digital twin, is that you have a use case that doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't.
He was asking about the first two recommendation, not digital twin.
Oh.
Yeah.
The first two recommendation, which was?
So which is create the framework.
All right. Okay.
And
yeah.
360, Citizen 360.
Okay.
And by, we didn't come up with an estimate for that. Okay. So we have the recommendation on the use cases. So when you meet at your retreat, these are 3 use cases for you to consider. The first one is establishing the framework. Second one is bi-directional push notification. And the third one is Citizen 360 and an IDA.
Digital assistant.
Digital assistant. So you could start off by saying one is more important than the other. That's a decision you can make. And once you make that decision, I think the staff is better positioned to come back with a cost estimate.
Thank you.
So I have a question, and this is going to go back to the digital twin. When I listened to you describe that to me, that sounded like a model. So how is a digital twin different than a model of an event or an object?
It is. It is a model. So you're actually using 3D modeling in a very, it is a model. It's a 3D modeling. So you're basically taking, I hate to get too technical, but you're taking sensor data from streets, street lamps or buildings, and taking that information and be able to do something with it. Like the example I gave you was traffic. If you collect a year's worth of traffic, seasonal traffic, daily traffic, afternoon traffic, be able to model things like what happens if we did a lane closure in this area? How would that affect? And where would the traffic get diverted to? So you can do a lot of what-if analysis, but that requires a lot of data collection from those entities.
Okay. Thank you very much. Council, any other questions? Well, on behalf of the council, thank you very much for your work. This was your board is new, relatively new, and we've been looking forward to reports. And so, thank you for all the work you've done, and continue on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, item number 6 is our citizens' appearance. Any person wishing to speak on any matter other than an item already scheduled for a public hearing on the published agenda must sign the register located outside the council chambers and list the address of your residence. Such persons shall be heard only at the citizens' appearance portion of a regular meeting or a special call meeting. Each speaker must state his or her name and list their residence. Presentations by individuals during the citizens' appearance shall be limited to 2 minutes each. An individual speaker's time may be extended for an additional 2 minutes with the approval of the majority of the council members present. The city secretary or mayor will stop the speaker at the 2-minute mark and inquire if the council desires to extend the speaker's time for another 2 minutes. There shall be a cumulative limit of 20 minutes allocated at any regular or special call meeting for the citizens' appearances. Those persons who signed up to speak at the citizens' appearance shall be called upon in the order that they signed up on the provided register. Only the person that signed the register will be permitted to approach the speaker's podium. No personal attacks by any speaker shall be made against any member of the council, mayor, individual, group, or corporation. There will be no comments or deliberation from the city council due to the Texas Open Meeting Record Act. We do have a number of people that have signed up to speak tonight. And in the order that they signed up, the first speaker is Abdullah Odura.
Council members, Mayor, thank you for having us here, and I really appreciate you making the opportunity for the Coppell members and residents to come and speak on their behalf particularly. My name is Abdullah Odura. I'm the Minister Imam of the Islamic Center of Coppell, and I've lived in Coppell for roughly around roughly 6 years. I remember coming here as a Coppell resident, initially from Houston, Texas, and the major reason was for education. Anytime I travel around the world and I speak a lot, and when speaking with people outside of Dallas, outside of even Texas, Coppell is a name that they have heard before. And I think that plays a huge role in the diligence of its citizens, the diligence of the mayor, the council, in regards to education. But the education that I want to speak about tonight is the education that leads, or education as a result of diversity. You know, in all of our religions and all of our allegiance that we have to our God, diversity is something that is very, very important. And education of the other, which may start as the term the other, but which will eventually come to our brother or our sister or our friend or our neighbor, our confidant, is something that is important. And what is going on in Palestine now, I think it's important for us, the many people that are here. I'm someone that's from Ghana, but being the imam and minister of my mosque, you will further hear from people that have relatives and that have faced themselves, seen casualties of war and seen war with their own eyes. And it's important that we educate ourselves on that to further understand, to have a level of sympathy, and to understand why the request of a ceasefire is there, particularly, primarily, and dare I even say ultimately, for the preservation of life. And I think all of us can value that. Each and every single one of us have had a family member that we have heard that has passed away. We sat at their deathbed. I sat at the deathbed of my sister 9 years younger than me that died of cancer, my father that died as well. There's nothing like hearing or seeing a family member pass away. But what if it's someone that has passed away from your dear beloved family or brethren in humanity because of some type of act that was unjustified? So when looking at the ceasefire, it's important for us just to initially agree with the solidarity that I've seen in Coppell to stop the killing and to stop that for the general purpose of preservation of life. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak here and to represent a community that you all have welcomed and that continues to welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Ryan Polash.
All right, my name is Ryan Polash, address 810 Pebble Ridge, Drive, Louisville, Texas. All right, dear City Council Coppell, I have a dream, which is please adopt the ceasefire resolution. You forget Jesus was a Palestinian. Free Palestinian. Yes, we can. Until then, I hope you have a bad night.
Our next speaker is Sajah Salah.
May I begin?
State your name and address.
My name is Seda Saleh. I'm 1400 Brushwood Drive. Good evening, honorable members of the Coppell City Council. My name is Seda Saleh, and I'm a proud CHS alumna. As a member of the class of 2019, I distinctly remember the emphasis on integrity the school instilled in us. We were informed that CHS, CISD, and Coppell as a whole want to encourage a supportive, diverse, and dynamic learning committee that celebrates success and is committed to a culture of integrity. I took those values presented to me and stand before you today as a proud member of our remarkable community, a Coppell Cowboy, and a UTD Comet. It saddens me to see that my school, my district, and my city have not always complied with the values they instilled in me. On my graduation day in 2019, I was asked to remove my Palestinian stole that I wore alongside my other graduation regalia under the guise of it being too political. While my classmates crowded around me in their bright flags and stoles and leis, I was punished for existing too loudly, for being an inconvenience. But I was 17. I was used to fighting for my right to exist. Still, I embedded these values in my pursuit of higher education and now contribute to the education of others, being employed as a full-time teacher in the next district over. Coppell prides itself on a wonderfully diverse community and being a top district in the state, so it's only right to assume that y'all care about education. A term has recently risen out of Gaza, scholasticide. Scholasticide is the deliberate targeting of the education system and educators as part of a larger campaign of genocide. Not only has every higher institution in Gaza been bombed, but so have elementary and secondary schools. I urge you to think about your child's classmates, or your grandchild's classmates, the ones named Muhammad and Zainab and Hassan and Maryam. Are they not worthy of an education? Are they not worthy of life? Look at the person standing before you today. Are you okay with being complicit in the murder of people who look like me and sound like me? Am I not worthy of life? Am I not worthy of an education? As we encourage the future leaders of Coppell to embody integrity, let us also lead by example. By endorsing the ceasefire resolution, we send a powerful message that echoes the values instilled in our educational institutions. We declare our commitment to promoting peace and maintaining the highest standards of integrity within our local and global community. Thank you for your time, and please sponsor the ceasefire resolution presented before you today.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Mohammed Hamoud.
Of the around 600,000 people facing
name and address,
Mohammed
please.
Hamoud, 2321 Ashley Lane, Flowermount, Texas.
Thank you.
No problem. Of around the 600,000 people facing starvation across the globe, 95% of them are in Gaza, according to the figures of Integrated Food Security Phase Classification and IPC. So I would urge the city of Coppell to help fight world hunger and help Gaza. Thank you.
Thank you for being here tonight. The next speaker is Omar, and there is no last name. It looks like Ilm. Omar Ilm. Is that a K? Yeah. Sorry.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. It's a great honor to be standing here and looking at Coppell, and I could almost look at it and think coping or cope.
Name and address, please.
Omar Khattab, Irving, Texas, and always here passing by Coppell for many reasons, a lot of volunteer opportunities. But I'm here to make it very simple and just talk to y'all and present it in a story, because I think someone said if a 5-year-old can get it, it's not complicated. So if you could just picture a house and people living in a house, and people just decide to come over and call it their house, and then put a wall, and right across that wall, turn it into a concentration camp. Food, no access to food, no access to water, and simply years go by, and there's a beehive. And there's a bully that's continuously just poking that beehive years after years after years, until one time they get stung. And for every cause, there's an effect. So where am I going with this story? That's exactly what's been happening in Palestine. It's been years of occupation. It's been years of ongoing rights just being taken, years over years over years. So bringing it back to what does it have to do with where we are right now? There was a Palestinian American that was brutally shot in Palestine. And that was an American from Louisiana. And we could go back here.
we have kids who are Palestinians just simply wearing their kufiya and getting harassed. And that is something that is unacceptable. So just two things. There's something that it's not only Palestine that's occupied, but there's an occupation of the American minds. And what I mean by that, there has to be a change of thinking, because I really genuinely believe all Americans have a sound heart. And we pledge allegiance to the flag, and we finish by saying justice for all. I think that is in our core, to stand up for what's right. So if we really start changing the
I'm sorry, sir, your time's up.
Okay, so it's liberating and freeing our minds from the occupation of misinformation. And I think that could go a long way for us here and everywhere across the world. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Fadia Rishek, I think. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you said it right. Fadia Rishek. I live in Irving, Texas.
Name and address, please.
4436 Zahir Court, Irving, Texas.
Thank you.
So my name Fadia Rishek. I'm a Palestinian American who was born and raised in the holy city of Jerusalem. For nearly a century, my family and my people have endured a brutal colonial and military occupation. One that, with the recent event in Gaza and in the West Bank, clearly demonstrate the ethnic cleansing my people have faced for too long. As Americans, we pride ourselves on the God-given fundamental of human rights, such as freedom, liberty, equality, and justice for all. For God to bless our nation, it is necessary now, if not more than ever, we stand up for these principles to whatever capacity is within our power, even if it is merely our voice. So today I have come to ask you not just to stand up for the Palestinian, but to stand up for these rights we claim our great nation stands for. We ask you to voice your support for justice, not injustice, for freedom, not oppression, for equality, not inequality, for peace, not war. We ask you to call for ceasefire at a minimum, or better, freedom for the Palestinian if you truly believe in these fundamentals. Let us not allow this nation to continue to grow old without growing up. I'm going to repeat this again. Let's not allow this nation to continue to grow old without growing up. Let us hear today.
Ma'am, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Anam Hassan.
My name is Anam Hassan. I live in 236 Leisure Lane in Coppell. I have been a physician assistant practicing in the city of Coppell since the start of the pandemic declared in March 2020. I was once asked by a neighbor, "Are you not scared?" And my reply was, "No, this is what I signed up for." Tonight, I'm talking about the front lines in Gaza. After 108 days of brutal retaliation by Israel, funded by US tax dollars, including mine and all of yours, 25,000 cousins have been killed, 70% of them women and children, and over 60,000 injuries. We are seeing a live stream of hospitals being bombed, including the only pediatric cancer hospital in Gaza. OBGYNs are performing C-sections without anesthesia. Surgeons are performing limb amputations without anesthesia. Some physicians are performing them on their own children without anesthesia. Incubators, dialysis units, ORs are shut down because there's no electricity, no fuel, nothing is allowed in. There's a new medical acronym unique to Gaza that has been introduced to the international medical community. WCNSF, Wounded Child, No Surviving Family. I have never heard this in my 10 years of being a PA. Wounds are being treated that are infested with worms are being treated with vinegar. Children are dying from asthma because there's no access to inhalers. Children are dying from heart attacks due to constant fear from bombardment and lack of sleep. Lastly, hundreds of my medical international colleagues are being killed, abducted by Israeli forces, including those of Doctors Without Borders. You know, this is not what they signed up for. And today I'm here to tell you that I am scared. This is not normal warfare. Don't let anyone tell you that. This has nothing to do with religion. This has nothing to do with politics. This is about humanity. As I speak now, Gaza is being bombed. Please do not use my tax dollars to kill my colleagues or patients that could have easily been my own. Thank you.
The next speaker is Mohammed Saleh.
Good evening, pristine City Council members. My name is Mohammed Saleh, 1400 Brushwood Drive. I'm a 15-year-old Palestinian American and a proud student at CISD's Freshman Center. As a Palestinian, I have firsthand experience with the brutality of the apartheid state known as Israel. I've had my cousins killed just for being Palestinian. I've experienced water being shut off for days during my summer visits just because the apartheid state feels like it. My uncle, a 21-year-old university student, martyred for standing up for what he believed in because he was Palestinian. The military control that Israel has over Gaza for over 75 years is inhumane. It controls its land borders, airspace, maritime zones, imports, exports, population registry, sewage system, and electric grid. According to the Euromed Human Rights Monitor, as of January 4th, Israel has dropped more than 75,000 tons of explosives on the Gaza Strip, equivalent to 5 nuclear bombs since October 7th. Not only is Gaza suffering, but the Israeli occupation of the Palestinian West Bank is recognized by international law as an illegal occupation. Palestinians have the right to resist occupation. Their right to self-determination is guaranteed by international humanitarian law covered by Article 10 of the Human Rights Act of 1998. UN Resolution 194, paragraph 11 says that a state, whether occupied or not recognized, has the right to resist or form an independent state, whether peacefully or not. This is a fundamental human right. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight, and I hope you can consider a ceasefire resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And the next speaker, I'm not sure on the first name. I think it's Haranza. Last name is Siddiqui.
Thank you so much. That's my chicken scratch, so I apologize. My name is Hamza Siddiqui. I live at 104 Ripplewood Cove in Coppell. Thank you for taking time out to hear us out. I'm sure many of us are probably not usually here, but I just wanted to emphasize the role that this council plays, because it may seem nebulous that, you know, the powers that you guys have don't have a direct impact on what the foreign policy of our country is. But I want to point to just 3 things. Number 1, the United States is backing Israel by providing weapons that are being dropped indiscriminately. This is not something that's a partisan issue. This, if you listen to any neutral observer, any human rights organization that is neutral and outside of this country, they can verify this information. And that is a serious allegation. To take retribution against an entire population for the acts of October 7th is not justified, is against how the U.S. military itself operates, and that should extend to any ally that we support with weapons. Number 2, we need to understand that there's not many times in history where we're witnessing genocide and we have an obligation to speak. There could be many opportunities in the past where people fail to speak, and that carries with them. This is a huge obligation that we have in our conscience to do whatever we can to stand up for. And number 3, as you can see, everybody behind me, there's a lot of Coppell residents in here. It would mean tremendously to them to know that their city council sees their pain. No one person I know behind me, I guarantee it has been the same since October 7th. Every day you see murder. Every day you see videos that break your heart. And there's a saying that Palestinians show you what's happening and Israel tells you what's happening, right? And every day we see it. Please stand up for this. Please stand up for your residents that had voted for you and that look at you as someone that can be an ally. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker this evening is Hadil Sha'at.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. I'm an old person, so I love my paper. My name is Hadil, live 215 Northmore Road. I'm an American Palestinian who proudly call Coppell home. I work in the district, and I'm honored to be part of a group who teaches and practices life values and principles. While I'm proud of my city, Coppell, I cannot forget my other beloved city, Gaza, which shaped me into the person I am today. I lived there for most of my life, and I survived 4 deadly wars. I also survived a long siege. I worked 14 years for UNICEF, and I witnessed atrocities that no memory can hold. Today, I want to share a very specific incident from May 2014. Around 8 p.m., I received a phone call asking us to evacuate now. All I remember that I hold my few weeks baby boy and my 3.5 years old daughter, and I ran like a crazy. I can't remember where I stopped and when I stopped. My children and I and myself, we survived. But unfortunately, 10,000 children who didn't survive 110 years, 110 days. I want you today to think about 70,000 people who injured, with a significant number of children who lost their limbs. I want you to think today about 85% of the whole population. We are talking about more than 1.5 million people who suffered of what I suffered from. And I'm really sorry, I will need 1 minute. 1 minute. 85% of the population who left their houses, displaced more than once. I was lucky. I displaced only once. Those people who were asked to displace, they were asked to go nowhere. No food, no water, no electricity, no safe place. I implore you to do something for those 2 million children living in Gaza now. I want you to stand for humanity. I want you to stand for those values that we teach our kids in our schools. I urge you to stand for these values. Stand for humanity and adopt the ceasefire now. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
Thank you very much for your comments. We're now at the end of citizens' appearance. We'll be moving on to item number 7, which is our consent agenda. The consent agenda is routine in nature and generally enacted in one motion. These items have been previously approved through the budget, past council action. Any item may be pulled and considered separately at the request of any council member. Full descriptions are available on the screen. As a note, the development agreement that was included in the packet for COP Lovett 121 Logistics Park, LLC, has been modified to change the dates for the construction timeline to allow adequate time for construction. The revised and correct agreement will be uploaded and accessible to the public online. Council, is there any item that you would like to see pulled and discussed separately? Seeing none, Councilmember Nevels.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve consent agenda items A through D.
Seconded by Councilmember Hill. All in favor?
Walker, Hina, Smith, Carol, Neville's, John, Matthew Hill in favor. None opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you very much. Item number 8 is consider approval of a resolution ordering a general municipal election to be held on May 4th, 2024 for mayor and city council places 2, 4, and 6, and authorizing the mayor to sign and execute a joint election agreement with Dallas and Denton counties. There you are.
Hi, Mayor and Council. This item is to call an election for mayor places 2, 4, and 6. This is just an administrative function that we have to do in order to call the election for May 4th, 2024. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Mayor Pro Tem has a question.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, I have a question on this cost. It seems like it's significantly lower than what we were charged before. So what's going on?
Yes, so that's a great observation. Yes, the Dallas County Elections Department has streamlined their processes. They have cut staff. They have eliminated certain wastes in their budget. And so we're seeing a significantly lower cost overall for the entire election. I think if you see, it's a little bit over $1 million that was from the previous election, May 2023. So it's a significant jump. And so then the cost that is passed on to entities, it looks like we lost some registered voters. Just the numbers went down. I can't unfortunately explain to you why we lost registered voters, but that also impacted our cost as well.
But even at that, we're like almost half the cost of what we paid last year, I think.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
And is this? Did they say this is something that we're going to be looking at going forward?
Yes.
That's a great.
So I spoke with the deputy elections administrator yesterday, and she did let me know that this is going to be a continual process that they are doing. Again, they have a new elections administrator that came on board from Tarrant County, and so he's looking at their processes. He's going to clean up certain things that they see or that he needs to add or he needs to take away. So we could possibly see a more reduction in this.
Well, that's great news.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you.
Of course.
I don't know if you remember a few years ago when we saw those costs escalate like crazy. And so it's nice to see it going the other direction. Any questions for Ashley?
So I would just add that in 2020, when we saw the significant jump, we had not been incurring the cost of new machines that the county had purchased. And so that cost was then passed down to us on 2020's election. And so we saw a big hit there. And so since then, the cost of those election machines have obviously gone down, and we are not currently seeing new costs come in either.
Thank you. Council, I'll entertain a motion. Councilmember Hill.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve item number 8.
Seconded by Councilmember Walker. All in favor?
Walker, Hina, Smith, Carol, Neville's, Jen, Matthew Hill in favor. None opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you very much. Item number 9 is consider the cancellation of the March 12, 2024 City Council meeting due to the date falling during spring break. Mr. Land.
There's really nothing for me to add. That's the reason for canceling the meeting.
That had your name down here. Well, that's okay. So this is routine that we generally do when our council meeting does fall on spring break. We do typically cancel that meeting.
Second.
What's that?
Second.
I will not be here.
Councilmember Carroll.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move to approve item number 9.
And I have a second from Councilmember Hinojosa Smith. All in favor?
Walker, Hinojosa Smith, Carol, Neville's, Jen, Matthew Hill in favor. None opposed. The motion carries.
Thank you very much. Item number 10 is a city manager report with project updates, future agendas, and direction from our work session. Mr. Land.
Mayor and Council, just a few projects to update. If you've been by Duck Pond Park, You'll note that the project is predominantly complete. They are still going through punch list items. Ribbon cutting ceremony is tentatively scheduled for April the 2nd. Details will follow. South Beltline, work continues on South Beltline, but there is an end in sight. We can see it. DART is currently working on the storm drain installations on Freeport Parkway Crossing. We call it the hangar. The art annex demolition is underway. And on Woodhurst, the contractor has begun installation of the utilities.
Thank you very much. Item number 11 is mayor and council reports on recent and upcoming events. Just as a note, we do have our election, which we just approved, which will be on May 4th, 2024. The filing period goes through Friday, February 16th, 2024, and visit the city's election webpage for more information. Item number 12 is the City Council Committee reports concerning items of community involvement with no council action or deliberation permitted. I believe we have a report on the Coppell seniors from Mayor Pro Tem John and Councilmember Kevin Nevels. Gentlemen.
I am deferring to Councilmember Nevels, since it is not that long.
As the action item has been deferred to me, I will read the report. So a couple things. The Coppell Senior Community Center won the Texas Recreation and Park Society 2024 Lone Star Programming Award for the Seniors versus Seniors Cornhole Tournament. This statewide award recognizes the best first-time recreation program amongst parks and recreation agencies in the state. The Senior versus Seniors Cornhole Tournament exemplified the values of connections, advocacy, resources, and education. Facility staff will travel to Galveston next month to accept the award. I know the whole senior community was incredibly ecstatic about that. So I do understand they still want to challenge the city council, so y'all better step up your beanbag tossing game, because we got to go whip them over there, I think. So it'll be good. Members enjoyed a trip to the Coppell Art Center to watch the Four C Notes in concert and recently visited Beto and Sons in Trinity Grove for a supper club. The trip program remains one of the most popular programs at the facility, and the trips often sell out in days. The holidays were a bustling time at the facility. The annual holiday luncheon was held in early December, and attendees enjoyed a traditional holiday lunch served by the Community Experiences leadership team, had a holiday sing-along with a CIC middle school choir. Later in the month, the members enjoyed the annual carol sing-along with Chief Richardson and Assistant Chief McDowell's daughters. The quartet named themselves the Beauties and the Chief, and the members look forward to this event each year. CISD high school students coordinated an afternoon of holiday fun with the members, including a gingerbread house decorating contest, board games, hot cocoa, and cookie decorating. And lastly, the fun has not slowed down in the new year. Many seniors are getting a jump on New Year's resolutions. Group X classes and the fitness rooms are being well utilized each day. Health and wellness seminars are planned throughout the month, as well as health clinic and presentations with Medicare professionals. There have also been more opportunities for members to build a community and participate in new programs. Tabletop games like, excuse me, like Mexican Train, Chicken Foot, and Shanghai Rummy, which my mother actually taught me how to play Shanghai Rummy over the holiday break. She got really mad when I beat her. So they've been added to the program schedule, and participation is steadily increasing. We're looking forward to what 2024 has in store at the Coppell Senior and Community Center. Lastly, I just want to add that tomorrow is the January luncheon, and we would love to invite any council members and mayor to come and visit. Things kick off at 11:30 and typically end around 12:45, 1 o'clock, something like that. So all are welcome to attend.
And I just want to add that the seniors, the response has been that every time the council members visit, they do appreciate and actually really look forward to hearing the updates from the council members too. So if you do have time, they'd love to see you out there as well.
All right, thank you very much. We also have a report on the Coppell Art Center Foundation from Councilmember Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. The Coppell Art Center Foundation is hosting the perfect tropical getaway for us all. They would like all of us to join them on February 10th at the Coppell Art Center for the Caribbean Nights Gala, an evening of live entertainment, tropical-inspired buffet and specialty cocktails, casino games, and an auction and raffle, all to support the Coppell Arts Center. So get your tickets now, don your resort cocktail attire, and escape to the tropics to support the arts, which in February will be pretty nice. Hillary Gorman is chairing that, and she's fantastic talent, and I know it's going to be a tremendous evening. Other news, the board is going to be considering the recommendations from the DeVos work project completed in 2023 and planning for 2024 and 2025 at the Coppell Arts Center Foundation Board Annual Retreat, which is going to be this Saturday on January 28th. The Coppell Arts Center Foundation also wants to let everyone know that they've been partnering with other local organizations and entities to engage different communities with the Coppell Arts Center. Two recent examples. In December 2023, the Coppell Arts Center Foundation partnered with the Coppell Rotary Club and the Coppell Community Chorale to host 150 students at the chorale's holiday show, Tidings and Tinsel. And on February 29th, the foundation will be partnering with the Coppell ISD and the Arts Center to have two CISD elementary schools attend an education-focused Artrageous performance. This will be the first time that the foundation has done this, and they're really excited about bringing a unique experience to local school children who might not otherwise be able to attend a presented Coppell Arts Center show. And I know that everyone loves the dog show. It's a huge local hit. It's typically been held in the spring, and they wanted to give everyone a heads up that the foundation will be moving this super fun event to the fall, most likely in October 2024. And they want to lean into this event by exploring having the Coppell Arts Center present a show with dogs on the same day. So it'll be a canine-themed day, so please stay tuned.
Thank you very much. Item number 13 are public service announcements concerning items of community interest with no council action or deliberation permitted. I do have a couple of items. The first one is our State of the City is scheduled to be held on February 15th. That's a Thursday, starting at 11:30 at the Arts Center. The second one is I want to thank the audience for coming out tonight. We do appreciate, we need some time to process what we've heard. You guys were very, very passionate in your presentations, and that is very impactful. We do have a process that we follow for proclamations, and that's available on our website. But we did hear you, and we thank you for coming out and appreciate you sticking around for the end of the meeting, which most of the time no one ever does. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. And we invite you all, by the way, like Coppell mentioned, to meet with each one of you for further information, to learn more about the code as well, please.
So let's see, moving on our agenda, item number 14. We did not have an executive session tonight, so there was no action from that. Therefore, there being no further business before this body, we are adjourned at 8:37 p.m.